and welcome. I'm so glad you're here. My name is Linda Kroll, and welcome to How to Be Your Best Self to Resolve Conflict. And if you want to put a comment in the chat to make sure you can hear me, I'm thrilled that you're going to be part of my initial session. So whether you're a practitioner learning how to offer this technique to your clients, or you're here for your own relationship healing, I want to introduce myself and then give you 30 minutes to bring your best self into all your relationships. So if you're double tasking and want to give me your full attention, that's great. But let's get started. Okay. I'm Linda Kroll. I'm a therapist, mediator, attorney. I've studied internal family systems for 35 years. I've taught hundreds of other practitioners and interviewed thousands of individuals and couples. And I help people learn how to compassionately communicate by becoming their best self, letting go of their limiting beliefs and judgments, unburdening pain from the past, and relating from their heart. But I do that without explaining what I'm doing. So let's start the first session and pretend you're in my office. And my office is on Zoom. So I want you to feel that I'm speaking directly to you because I am. So welcome. I want to know how I can help you and with whom you're having conflict. Is it your spouse? Is it your child? Is it someone at work? So think of the person that you're having conflict with. And usually when someone comes to my office, I give them a few minutes to talk about their story and what's been going on. They may have seen another therapist, maybe they haven't, but they have a backlog of information they want me to have. And I listen respectfully for maybe 5 minutes. And then I ask, is it okay if I ask you a few questions? Because if I ask you a few questions, I can understand better what's going on and how I can help you. Sometimes clients want to talk and talk and talk and share their whole story. And you have to be patient, but you also have to take over the transparency of what you're doing so that you can give them another perspective. And usually what I'll say is, I know you have a lot to share with me and I want to hear it all. But if I just listen to your story, you're going to walk out of here in 45 minutes and feel marginally better because I listened. But if it's okay with you, I'd like to understand the whole story and then offer you a different perspective. Would that be okay? And often it's okay. So then I ask a series of questions, and I'm asking you these questions. So if you want to take a breath with me here, bring yourself present and think about someone with whom you're having conflict. And I'm going to ask you, who is that person? And if any of you want to put information into the chat, I can work with you online. But in the meantime, I'm going to be working in the abstract. So who is the person with whom you're having conflict? And you can write it down, you can think about it. Then I'm going to ask, what do they do that bothers you? What do they say? How do they act? How do they treat you? What are your complaints that you have about this person? And then I will ask you, what do you do when they do something that triggers you? Do you get angry? Do you get withholding? Do you get hurt? Do you yell? Do you walk out? Do you go have an affair? What do you do when someone is bothering you? Do you then react in a way that bothers them? Because then I will ask you, what does the other person do when you react? So if you yell, do they yell back? If you get withholding, do they shut down? How do you relate to each other? Because what I'm listening for are the parts of each of you that get triggered. Okay, what do you do? What do you say? How do you feel? What do you think? And then I ask, now, if I were talking to your partner or your parent or your child, with whomever you're having conflict, what would they say you do that bothers them? Do you try to lecture them? Are you too controlling? Do you get too demanding? What would be their complaints about you? And then how do they treat you when they think those thoughts? So what I'm trying to listen for is how many parts are triggered in you and what parts are triggered in the person with whom you're having conflict. And I just do this in a vacuum as I'm getting information. And then I will ask you to tell me something about your family of origin. tell me what your mother was like, what your father was like. How many siblings did you have? Were there any family secrets? Was there addiction? And I will take a very, very brief survey of your family of origin to kind of understand where you came from. And then I will ask you to tell me about the other person's family of origin. So if it's your partner, what were your in-laws like? What was your partner's childhood like? What did they learn? Was there addiction in their family? So they really never learned how to be emotionally available because they grew up being codependent or angry. So I'm trying to get a picture and get a picture of the family of origin in which you grew up and what you learned, and also the family of origin with the person with whom you have conflict. Because when you see it from this perspective, you're beginning to understand perhaps why the person with whom you're having conflict has certain limitations. And it's moving you, hopefully, out of total judgment, blame, anger, resentment, to maybe a little more compassion. Maybe not, but that's where we're headed. So then I ask in this very short introductory interview, I ask, if you had a magic wand, what would you like to see happen? So if you had a magic wand, think about it now. Think about the person with whom you're having conflict. And if you're a professional, I want to show you that I'm going to give you these tools to use with your clients so you can ask these questions. So ask, what is the magic wand? Meaning, if a person comes in and their magic wand is they really want to heal their relationship and they don't know how, then you help yourself look at the parts of you that you can change. If someone comes in and says, I really want a divorce, there's no going back, and you want to help them, I'll give you some information on how to do that. But often the magic wand gives you their general intention. Because a lot of times, if you're working with an individual, and if I'm working with a couple, I will interview each of them alone first, and then I'll put them back together. But in that initial interview, I'm trying to find the mindset of either the individual client I'm working with, or if it's part of a couple, what do they each want? Because sometimes people come to see me and one of them wants a divorce and the other one is going along with it because they think it's their only option. But when they learn how to compassionately communicate, they can talk about everything. And we'll talk a little bit more about that later. So let's review. You come into my office, we talk for a few minutes, and then I ask you some questions. With whom are you having conflict? How does it make you feel? What do you do? What do you think? How does it make the other person feel? What are your families of origin like? And what is the magic wand outcome you'd prefer? And then I ask one more question that I'm asking you. What is your word for spiritual? What is your word for spiritual? And again, it's not religious, whether you practice religion or not. It's my belief that we're all body, mind, and spirit, and we can relate from our higher self. And if people believe in God, I ask, where's God? And God is everywhere. God is in them. If it's your higher self, if it's spirit, source, Buddha, Allah, nature, universe, whatever it is, I'm inviting you to think of a word that I can use when I talk about self. So take a deep breath. The interview is over, and now I'm going to give you my 2-minute blurb. You ready? Here's the blurb I give everyone. I am of the belief that we all have a healthy self, capital S self, where we're calm, clear, and compassionate. You know those moments? They're usually just moments because we're not always in self. We're in what I call parts. Parts that we exile, push aside, parts that we manage with and show the world, and parts that we get extreme with. And based on what you told me, you exile your sadness, your pain, your hurt. Sometimes people exile their anger too, especially if they grew up in codependent families, alcoholic families, dysfunctional families. They've exiled their anger because it wasn't safe. But they learned how to manage. You've learned how to manage by being nice, pleasing, caretaking, hardworking. But you also have learned how to manage by putting on what I'm calling a pseudo self, where you want to look like you're calm, clear, and compassionate, but you're really feeling some of those exiled feelings. In this relationship, you're feeling hurt, you're feeling sad, sometimes you're feeling scared or angry. So if you're trying to manage and those exiled feelings come out, what do you do that gets extreme? Do you eat too much, drink too much, exercise too much, shop too much, get depressed, get enraged? Some people go have an affair. Some people go hire a lawyer and say, get me out of this. But those are extreme behaviors. And your extreme parts, your manager parts are all trying to protect you from feeling the feelings from the parts of you that exile. So then I put it into their language. So if I'm working with an individual, I go back to the words that you gave me and say, I understand that when your husband yells at you, you get very hurt and you push that aside and you show up and you try to continue to do the dishes and show up and be a good wife. But underneath, you're really, really hurt. And instead of being able to manage the hurt or speak for your fear or talk about your anger, you go eat and you just spend all your time eating. Or maybe you go have an affair. Or maybe you spend too much on shopping, or maybe you're taking too many drugs. Whatever you are doing, we're going to thank the parts of you that are trying to protect you, because you're going to understand that the way you've been reacting is the way you were taught to react from your family of origin, from what you learned along the way. And your belief system has had you act and react in certain ways to stay safe. But if it's okay, I want to offer you a brief guided meditation to have a felt sense of what self is about. So we're about 12 minutes in, and I introduced myself part of it. So that is the overall interview that I do. And I want to show you the banner that I have, because I have some handouts that I give to people about what it means to be in self. So for instance, when we are in self, you can be calm when there's chaos around you, clear about your role in bringing peace, compassionate to the people in your world, confident in your ability to be of service if you're working or in your family, connected to your higher self or whatever that spiritual word is for you, courageous in the face of conflict, creative to reach a peaceful resolution, and curious about what your partner needs. So when you are doing work to help your clients get to self or help you get to self, having an understanding of self in parts is part of what I offer. But let's go back to that first experience. I've interviewed you. I've helped you see things from a different perspective. If it's a couple that I'm working with, I do this with both of them present. And I remind the couple that they came into the relationship doing the best they knew how to do according to their level of awareness at the time. And now they can learn a new way of communicating, which is based on their higher self, and unburden the pain from the past, let go of their limiting beliefs and judgments about themselves and each other, and relate from their heart. So let's talk about relating from your heart and relating from your higher self. So notice yourself right now. Notice if you're thinking about the person with whom you're having conflict and what they've said, what you've thought, what you've done, how you're hurt, how you're angry, the stories you're telling yourself. Notice what happens to your body. It does not relax. It constricts. Okay, you become more anxious. So what I want you to do is put your hands on your abdomen. I want you to inhale so your abdomen goes out. Exhale, belly button back to your spine. We're going to take 3 belly breaths, and I invite my clients to do this. Inhale, abdomen out. Exhale, belly button back to your spine. One more time. Inhale, abdomen out. Good. Exhale, belly button back to your spine. 3 times. Now, the reason I ask you to do that is because when you're tense, when you're nervous, when you're frustrated, when you inhale, it goes, and it only goes to here. So there's no air, there's no space. When you take some belly breaths, you get air all the way down, you get space all the way down, and you get a little more of that self energy. And again, when we are in self, we're calm, clear, and compassionate. So if you want to, this is about a 5-minute meditation, but I want to offer it to you because it really will give you a felt sense of being in self for you to take back to all your relationships today. So get comfortable. Let your breathing become normal. And if you want to, you can close your eyes and just listen. So take a few breaths. And as your feet touch the ground, imagine that they're growing roots to the center of the earth. And as those roots go deeper and wider, you're going to feel very firmly rooted and planted and grounded, like a tree or a mountain. So whatever swirls around you isn't going to take you off your foundation. And you're going to invite that nurturing energy to go up your feet, your calves, your knees, your thighs, your hips, your groin, your stomach, your chest, and into and around your heart with all the feelings that are there. And then allow that nurturing energy to go up through your throat, your jaw, behind your eyes, crown of your head, out the crown of your head, all the way to the sky. And then invite down from the sky, nature, higher power, universe, God, whatever out there. Invite down some energy that's very calm and very compassionate. And breathe even bigger than yourself. So you surround yourself with this calm, compassionate energy of self. And then focus that compassion inward. Start at the top of your head and scan your body to the soles of your feet and just notice. Notice where you're feeling any tension or tightness. Notice your thoughts. Notice your feelings. And as you notice all these parts, let these parts notice you, supported and surrounded by this calm, compassionate energy of self. And then if you would, imagine yourself going through a doorway into the beautiful scene in nature, and you see before you a path that you safely walk to the base of a mountain. And what you're going to do for just a few moments is to separate from your parts and go up in self as high up the mountain as you want. So ask all of your parts that are frustrated or angry or resentful or judgmental or blaming if they'll separate for just a few moments. Ask all the parts that are criticizing you for what you did or didn't do if they'll separate. Ask all the parts that are critical of the other party about how they should be if they'll separate. Ask all the parts that are exhausted or feel abandoned or neglected if they'll separate. Ask all the parts of you that are feeling scared or worried about anything, money, finances, your future, your children, your job, any worry, concern, any part that's holding any conflict in your heart or head. Ask any part to separate for just a few moments, including all those sad, lonely, scared parts of you will come back, but ask them to separate for just a few moments. And if you're feeling any feeling that isn't peace or thinking any thought that isn't peace, it's just a part from which you can separate for just a few moments. And wherever you decide to stop on the mountain, along the way or at the top, in self, just rest. And look at the view from up here. You may be aware of another presence. You may not. Either way is fine. And if you want, you can put your thumb and forefinger together to anchor this place as a place to come back to, because in just a few moments, you're going to go back down the mountain. But before you do, in your mind's eye, picture the party with whom you're having conflict at the top of their mountain, without all of their parts attached. And as much as you can, send compassion in their direction. So in just a few moments, you're going to go back down the mountain to collect your parts, even if there's a part of you that doesn't want to, because you're going to realize that once you give your own parts the attention they need to unburden the pain from the past, they carry their own wisdom and light. So taking back your parts ever so gently, come back down the mountain, back down the path, back through the doorway, and back to your room. So how was that? Do you feel a little calmer? Can you see the other party with a little more discernment, a little more compassion, a little more connection to your humanity in the ways that you relate to each other? So you can start over. You can start over in any given moment. You can start over with someone today. You don't even have to tell them you did this. But you'll notice that you might be more calm or compassionate when you're speaking to them. And often what I do in the first session, always by the second session, is talk about the miracle of empathy. And I'd like to offer you the benefit of all that I have created. So if you're a therapist or a coach or someone who works with individuals or couples in conflict, I have a roadmap of my process, the compassionate mediation roadmap. And I also have a certification coming up in which I train other professionals and give continuing education credits approved by the National Board of Certified Counselors and the International Coach Federation. So if you get the roadmap, you can sign up for a brief chat with me, and we can see how I can help you in your profession and use these skills now. And if you'd like a chapter of my book, which talks about all of this, Self in Parts, and has the meditation in it, you can go to lindakrollbook.com to get a free chapter. Because what I want to help you remember is that we can show each other more attention, affection, appreciation, and acceptance. Meaning, that's the needs of the heart. The needs of the heart for you, for the person you're speaking with, is attention, affection, appreciation, and acceptance. And when you start offering that to your partner, when you start bringing your ability to do what Thich Nhat Hanh says, and this is what we do as professionals, to end conflict, to reconcile conflict, we have to have each party recognize the suffering of each other. And what you do in your professional role is helping each of them see they are hurt, sad, and scared. And what you can do for your own relationship is recognize with whom you have conflict is also feeling sad and hurt and scared. And when you go to each side and talk about the suffering the other, and go back to the other side and remind them they're both suffering, then healing can happen. And that's what I want for you. Whether you're working with couples, whether you're working with individuals, I want you to have this skill set. And my roadmap outlines how to do that. My roadmap is one that has how to be your best self, how to create a compassionate relationship, explore your options for change, understand rights and finances, and create a new relationship based on what you both want and need. And I love this picture because it talks about people that are got their backs turned, but inside there's an inner child yearning to connect. And that's what we do when we kind of come from our higher self. We can see the pain in someone else, and even though they're showing up in a way that is hurtful or yelling or threatening, if we take a breath, if we put up what I call our umbrella of self, where we do our own work, where we're clear, calm, compassionate, courageous, confident, all of those things. When you do that, you sit under your little umbrella of self. And then if somebody's being obnoxious or insulting, it just falls off that umbrella because you see that underneath their extreme behavior, no matter what they're saying, inside, they're trying to manage, but they're really either hurt or sad or scared about something, and they don't know how to communicate it. So Dick Schwartz, who's the founder of Internal Family Systems, always says, if there's a critical mass of self present, change and healing can happen. So even if your partner, your child, your parent doesn't learn this, you can. You can learn how to do this. You can even learn how to show them empathy, even when they have not shown it to you, because I'm also going to give you the miracle of empathy. If you go to lindakroll.com empathy, I show you the video of how to share empathy, how to be in your higher self, how to truly listen, understand, and empathize with someone else, and then how to help them learn how to do that for you. Because usually when you are trying to get your needs met or your point across, perhaps you're using you message instead of I messages. You do this, you never do that. You always, you never. And when you're pointing out what someone is or isn't doing, they are fact checking. They are in their heads. They are debating. They are doubting. They are rationalizing. They are defending, and you're not getting any empathy. So let's assume with whom you're having conflict has done these things that have upset you. Then you ask if it's a good time to talk with them, and you talk with I messages. When you yell at me, I feel sad and scared and hurt. Period. That's it. Now, they may not know how to give you empathy, in which case you'll be more hurt a little bit, but at least you'll stop the loop where all you do is complain or lecture or try to get your partner to change, because you need to change how you're showing up. When you're truly showing up from your highest and best self, then change and healing can happen. Then you can practice the 5 steps to get what you want and need, where you know what you want and need. You know you deserve it. You learn how to ask for it. You're willing to receive it, and you stay grateful. And when you do that, you have a better chance of getting your needs met. And if your needs aren't getting met, and you feel that they won't get met in the current relationship, then you can talk about an ending. And that's what we do in compassionate mediation, meaning we don't have to go to divorce, but we talk about what would happen if you separated. And if you're a practitioner, I give you all that information, because as a therapist, mediator, and attorney, I'm also a Chopra Certified teacher of meditation, yoga, and Ayurveda. And I've blended emotional and spiritual healing along with legal and financial information and support. I created the Compassionate Communication Academy, and the certification is in the academy. And when you go and learn the certification, then you get all the handouts, the templates, the scripts, the videos, everything I'm talking about, from the first stage of meeting a new client to taking them through the process of getting to their best self, letting go of their limiting beliefs, unburdening pain from the past, and relating from their heart, whether their partner or the person with whom they're having conflict is there or not. And if you're working with a couple, I give you the skill set, the tools, the manuals to help them talk about everything. Because if you're doing marriage counseling and one person or both people sometimes have debated whether to stay or go, they're not fully present for marriage counseling because they have one foot out the door psychologically. But if you invite in the parts that are holding the ambivalence or the desire to leave, and if you make room for that discussion from higher self-consciousness, without judgment, without fear, just compassionate witnessing awareness, it leads to more intimacy. You bring into the room a part that's been disowned. And I often have this in my office. This used to be in my office on an easel. And again, self, calm, clear, compassionate, courageous, confident, curious, creative, connected, and I add grateful. And then those parts that we exile, sad, hurt, scared. This is, what about me? Who's going to love and care for me the way I want? This is our inner child. And we manage all different ways to manage, but we often put on a pseudo self where we look like we're in self, but we're not. And this is often our ego, our mind, how we should be. So when those managers can't contain the exiles, out come those extreme parts. And that's usually how people come into my office, reactive, and they don't know what to do next. So that's why I want to give you the skill set, number one, for you to be in self. Because if you work with individuals or couples, you get triggered. They may remind you of someone you know. And then all of a sudden, you're not reacting from your higher self. You're reacting from a part of you that maybe reacted to your client's anger like you did to your father's anger. That's what I did when I first started. My father was a manic depressive, and I grew up afraid of my anger, afraid of my husband's anger, afraid of my father's anger. So when I started working with couples in conflict, I had a lot of self-growth to do to be able to recognize the pain underneath. So I told you I'd do this in 30 minutes. It's been 30 minutes. I hope you've learned a lot. I'd love for you to contact me, get the roadmap if you're a professional, get the miracle of empathy, come direct message me. We can find a time to chat. So whether you need help with your own relationship, and sometimes that own relationship is for yourself. I work with a lot of individuals that aren't in relationship that just need to do some of their own healing from their past and how to live with higher consciousness, more self-leadership, more peace, love, and joy. That's what I want for you. That's what I want to help you do. And if you're a professional, my trainings have continuing education credits for therapists and coaches approved by the NBCC and the ICF. But our cohort that's starting soon is live with me, starts in September. It starts soon. And what we're going to do is have live sessions where you get all the videos, handouts, but you also get to practice with me. It's going to be a small group. It's going to be personal, intimate. I'm going to be with you where you are in your practice now, give you everything I've learned in my 35 years so that you can use it wherever you are in your practice and take it wherever you want. So you will increase your expertise in conflict resolution and in helping people compassionately communicate. You're going to increase your impact because I'm going to give you so much information that you can share with your clients. You don't have to refer them out when one or both have thought about a divorce. You can help them. You can help them get to self, stay in self, and make self-led decisions. And I often tell my clients when they come in, even if they're just coming for marriage counseling, I tell them that their first marriage is over. It's not about fixing it or saving it. It's about creating something new based on who they both are now and what they both want and need. And it's not hard to get to the details of whether they're going to separate or what they're going to do about money or children. Excuse me. The challenge is getting them to self. The challenge is getting them to be the best version of themselves, either individually or together, and move forward to create a new relationship for the highest good of all concerned. And I often said, families need not be broken. They can be peacefully and respectfully restructured. And everyone has a self. We are all divine beings of light and love. And that's the energy that I want to help you bring to your relationships. And I want to help you help your clients bring to their relationships. So please direct message me if you have any more questions. Go to Linda Kroll, .com for the roadmap. Get the book, Linda Kroll book. Get the empathy here. And I'll give you one more because I created a care kit where you can actually get access to my guided meditation that I gave you at lindakroll.com/CCC. That guided meditation will be sent to you so you can listen to it again. So again, little over 30 minutes, but we did it. I'm sending you my love. I'm so glad you hung out with me for these 30 minutes. And please connect in any way that feels helpful. And I look forward to staying connected. I'll talk with you soon. Thanks for being here. Bye for now.